Susan Boyle's life changed forever with just one song. She became the first woman to go viral on the internet. Susan Boyle, a remarkable talent from Britain's Got Talent, captured the world's attention in 2009 with her audition video, which broke records and even surpassed the viewership of President Obama's inauguration. Since then, she has achieved incredible success, selling over 25 million albums, gaining 250 million audio streams, over 650 million YouTube views, 3 Guinness World Records, and 2 Grammy nominations. But at the height of her fame, she suddenly stepped back from the spotlight. In this video, we'll uncover the heartbreaking reason behind her disappearance and more. Unlike many famous singers, Susan Boyle wasn't connected to fame from a young age. She was born as the 10th child in a large family in Blackburn, West Lothian, with no hint of future stardom. Her father, Patrick Boyle, was a miner and a World War II veteran. To help support the family, her mother, Bridget, worked as a shorthand typist, which was uncommon for women at the time. Susan's childhood was challenging due to her family's poor background and her status as the child of Irish immigrants from Donegal. She faced even more difficulties because she was born when her mother was 45 years old, a risky pregnancy that doctors advised against. But her mother, a devout Catholic, insisted on going through with it, relying on her strong faith. Her mother's decision had consequences. Susan was briefly deprived of oxygen during her difficult birth, which led to a learning disability. Despite this, her father played a big role in her life. He worked as a singer at the Bishop's Blaze, in addition to his main job, and he inspired Susan's love for music. But her relationship with him was complicated. In an interview with The Guardian, Susan spoke warmly of her father. She talked about his time as a sergeant major with the Royal Engineers during World War II and his later jobs, first as a miner and then as a storeman at British Leyland. She also shared her favorite memory of him, seeing him go to work in his boiler suit every morning. The man behind these fond memories was also the cause of many of Susan's childhood struggles. In an interview with the Daily Mail, Susan opened up about her father, describing him as a good man, but admitting that he had a temper. As the youngest of 10 children, she was often the target of his anger. Susan revealed that his temper wasn't just verbal, he sometimes hurt her physically. The revelation was so unexpected that the Daily Mail sought confirmation from a close family friend who agreed that her father was a heavy-handed man. The friend suggested that his behavior might have been due to his experiences as a war veteran. Susan seemed to share this view, defending her father by saying he never meant to hurt her, echoing what her relative had said. When her father passed away in 1997, Susan began the difficult process of forgiving him. She told the Daily Mail that it was the hardest decision she ever made, but she chose to let go and embrace her new self. Susan said she had to accept her past and the bad memories that came with it. She knew she had to forgive everyone involved, which meant finding something else to focus on instead of her past pain. So she tried to immerse herself in school. Forgiving everyone was even harder than she expected, especially because so many people had hurt her, including her schoolmates and teachers. In an interview with the Daily Mirror, she talked about the struggles of her past, including being a victim of bullying. Diagnosed as brain-damaged early in life, Susan found learning difficult, and her classmates cruelly taunted her, calling her Susie Simple, because they thought she wasn't smart. Susan's struggles were made worse by her teachers who didn't support her. When she tried to speak up and report the bullies, her teachers either told her to be quiet or punished her with a belt. Susan also shared with the Daily Mirror that her learning disability put her at a disadvantage in class. She often fell behind in schoolwork and activities because she was a slow learner, and the education system at the time only favored fast learners. She explained that she was often disciplined because of her disability, which deeply affected her. Being bullied made her feel powerless, especially since her teachers dismissed her concerns. But things eventually changed. Later in life, Susan discovered that she had been misdiagnosed as a child. Instead of brain damage, as previously thought, a specialist diagnosed her with Asperger's syndrome. It turned out her IQ was above average. The real reason Susan was bullied as a child made the experience even more painful. In an interview with the Daily Mirror, she shared how the harsh words from her classmates and teachers left emotional scars that still linger. She admitted that the discipline she endured as a child continues to affect her today. In her helplessness, Susan found comfort in hobbies that helped her escape. She first turned to acting as a way to cope with her father's abuse, spending time playing with dolls and imaginary friends. These activities gave her a sense of comfort, allowing her to create an imaginary family that was loving and supportive. At 12, Susan discovered a new passion: music. Her musically inclined family inspired her to follow in their footsteps, and she began participating in school musical productions. Susan's talent was undeniable, and both her peers and teachers noticed it, encouraging her to keep singing. She performed at school and in church, continuing to nurture her passion. After graduating high school with limited qualifications, she participated in government training programs and worked as a cook trainee at West Lothian College. Despite these challenges, Susan remained committed to her music, performing at local venues like karaoke bars, in her church choir, and at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Yet her love for acting soon resurfaced. In 1995, she auditioned for the British TV talent show My Kind of People, but unfortunately she didn't make it. This disappointment led her to shift focus back to singing. In 1999, Susan recorded her version of Cry Me a River, which was featured on a local charity CD commemorating the millennium. The rendition received positive feedback, with one early review from Amber McCann in the West Lothian Herald and Post describing it as so moving that she kept it on repeat in her CD player. Encouraged by the praise she received, Susan threw herself even more into her music, using all her savings to record professional demo tapes. She recorded songs like Killing Me Softly and Don't Cry for Me Argentina at Heartbeat Studio in Midlothian, sending these demos to record companies, radio stations, TV networks, and talent competitions. However, after facing countless rejections, her dream began to fade. Everything came to a standstill when her father passed away in 1997. Overwhelmed by grief and mixed emotions, Susan struggled to focus during this devastating time. She was at her father's side during his final moments, a memory that deeply affected her. The loss weighed heavily on her family and led to significant changes at home. Her mother, who had been married to her father since 1936, was heartbroken by his death, and Susan, who was very close to her mother, was devastated as well. Susan described that period as one where she went to pieces and felt her world shatter. The sorrow deepened when, just a year later, her sister passed away. The double loss hit Susan hard, leading her to take a long break from her music career. After 2 years, she returned to singing and took professional lessons with vocal coach Fred O'Neill. Susan also became more involved in her parish church, participating in pilgrimages to the KNX Shrine in County Mayo, Ireland, where she sang at the Marian Basilica. Despite producing several recordings for local performances and benefits, her fame remained mostly local. Bridget Boyle's passing left Susan's mother deeply saddened. Recognizing her daughter's incredible talent, she encouraged Susan to apply for Britain's Got Talent and other major competitions. However, Susan, feeling discouraged by her age, chose to stay by her mother's side instead, caring for her and continuing with small local performances. Their bond was so strong that they were more than just mother and daughter. They were best friends. Susan remained her mother's primary caregiver in their childhood home until her mother passed away. When her mother died, Susan was devastated. She recalled that on the day of her mother's death, her mother was rushed to the hospital due to dehydration and was no longer aware of her surroundings. Susan described her as looking completely different, almost like a corpse, as if her mother was already gone. Even though Susan sensed that the end was near, it didn't make the loss any easier. She remembered her mother as a warm, kind, and articulate person. Watching her mother take her final breath while holding her hand was an incredibly painful and surreal experience. Susan saw her mother smile one last time, as if she were in a world of her own. Despite these memories, the pain of losing her mother was overwhelming, and nothing could ease her grief. After her mother's death, Susan felt immense grief and loneliness. With her only companion gone, she became numb and disconnected from her surroundings. Adjusting to life alone in their home was incredibly hard for Susan, leading her to withdraw further and experience panic attacks. Her health worsened as she struggled to eat or sleep properly. Susan's neighbors noticed her absence after she hadn't left her house for 4 days. They contacted her family, which included her 8 siblings. Their intervention was crucial in saving Susan's life and helping her recover. With their support, she began to heal and share her memories of her mother. Susan now reflects on her past with more strength. A few years ago, she couldn't have shared her feelings due to overwhelming emotion. On Mother's Day, she posted a heartfelt message honoring her mother and celebrating her memory. She thanked her mother for being a great parent, acknowledging that her love and care shaped Susan into the person she became as an adult. Susan's mother played a crucial role in shaping her future, including her success on Britain's Got Talent. Before she became very ill, her mother had started saving money to buy nice carpets for their home and new clothes for herself. She also encouraged Susan to take her singing career seriously. Susan initially followed her advice and tried to audition for the X Factor, but she backed out at the last minute due to stage fright and worries about being too old to compete. Her former singing coach, Fred O'Neill, noted that it was unfortunate because her mother's encouragement was strong, even to the point of threatening Susan that she wouldn't live to see her perform if she didn't take it seriously. Sadly, her mother's warnings came true. After her mother's death, Susan stopped her singing career completely. She no longer sang at church, bars, or any of the local venues where she used to perform. After nearly 2 years of encouragement from her coach, Susan finally agreed to audition. She was motivated by the desire to honor her mother, who had always dreamed of her pursuing a musical career. This decision marked the beginning of an exciting new chapter. Susan applied and impressed the judges at a preliminary audition, leading to an invitation to perform in front of a 3,000-person audience at the Clyde Auditorium in Glasgow, Scotland. At that time, Susan was living alone with her cat, Pebbles, and had not performed publicly for 2 years, making her quite nervous. Despite her nerves, Susan had a unique advantage: her incredible voice. Simon Cowell was so impressed by her preliminary audition that he praised her widely before her performance even aired on TV. When the performance aired on April 11, 2009, it lived up to the hype. Susan, a quiet and shy middle-aged woman, took the stage of Britain's Got Talent with minimal support. Though the audience initially snickered, she remained composed and began singing "I Dreamed a Dream" from Les Miserables. Her flawless performance left the audience in awe, with their jaws dropping as she delivered a stunning rendition. Judge Amanda Holden praised Susan's performance, calling it one of the best voices she had ever heard on stage. She admired Susan's confidence, noting how she walked onto the stage with a strong presence, knowing her voice would impress. The other judges, Piers Morgan and Simon Cowell, agreed, saying that even if Susan was the only act that day, the show would still have been a success because she captivated the audience. This marked the beginning of her rise to fame. Susan quickly became an overnight sensation. Her audition, which many initially doubted, gained worldwide attention. It was featured on morning shows in the US and even led to an interview with Oprah. She became a viral sensation, with her audition video on YouTube amassing over 233 million views. Soon, celebrities like Patti LuPone, Demi Moore, and Ashton Kutcher were commenting on her talent. Susan became a regular feature on Britain's Got Talent, and everyone believed she was on track to win the competition. The journey took a heavy physical and emotional toll on Susan. She admitted that the fear of losing and returning home with nothing overwhelmed her. However, by the end of the show, she was already a star. That same month, Susan made her American TV debut on the CBS Early Show, performing "I Dreamed a Dream." A few months later, she returned to the US to promote her debut album, "I Dreamed a Dream." Released the same month, the album quickly became a hit in Britain, setting records as the fastest-selling UK debut album ever. It outsold the top 5 albums combined in its first week, with over 411,000 copies sold in the first month. This success established Susan's reputation in the music industry. In December 2009, she won the Scot of the Year award at the Glenfiddich Spirit of Scotland Awards. Her rise also allowed her to achieve a personal dream, performing a duet with Elaine Paige, the original composer of I Dreamed a Dream, at the Glamis Prom. Susan was thrilled to sing alongside her idol and praised her performance. The following year, Susan reached new heights with the release of her second album, The Gift, in November 2010. The album sold extremely well, helping her win the Scot of the Year award. She was also nominated for a People's Choice Award for Best Breakout Artist in the U.S. and received several other nominations, including Best International Album at the Juno Awards in Canada. Susan won a Gold Disc Award for Top International Artist in Japan and the Golden Chinese Music Award for Most Influential International Artist in China. She surpassed expectations by winning the World Music Award for Best-Selling Artist in the UK and was nominated for an ARIA Award in Australia for Most Popular International Artist. At the Grammy Awards, Susan received 2 nominations. She also won the Outstanding Achievement Award at the Scottish Variety Awards and received 2 Billboard Magazine Award nominations. In 2010, Time magazine named her the 7th most influential person in the world, ahead of Barack Obama. By September of that year, Susan was recognized by Guinness World Records with 3 records: fastest-selling album by a UK female act, most successful first-week UK debut album sales, and oldest artist to reach #1 with a debut album in both the US and the UK. Soon after, even universities began to recognize Susan's achievements. In 2012, she received an honorary doctorate from Edinburgh's Queen Margaret University for her work in the creative industries. She had previously earned a certificate in caring from the same institution. In 2015, she was awarded an honorary doctorate in music from the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, the highest music honor in Scotland. Susan's career exceeded her expectations. She has released over 8 albums, which have topped the charts in more than 40 countries. Her albums have sold over 25 million copies and received about 128 platinum and gold certifications. She has also been active in touring, promoting her music worldwide. After performing with other Britain's Got Talent finalists in 2009, she headlined her own tour, Susan Boyle in Concert, from 2013 to 2014. In 2020, she launched another tour, the 10 Tour. Susan had been mostly out of the public eye for a while, causing concern among her fans. She vanished from both music and social media without any warning or updates. Her absence lasted until June 2023, when she reappeared on the Britain's Got Talent stage. During a special show, she performed I Dreamed a Dream and revealed that she had suffered a stroke the previous year. She explained that she had spent her time away focusing on her recovery so she could return to performing. To keep her fans informed, she shared details of her struggles in 2022 on Instagram. Before this, Susan had already been dealing with health issues. Her first major sign of trouble came in 2009 when she was admitted due to the stress from Britain's Got Talent. Later, in 2013, Susan was officially diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a condition on the autism spectrum affecting social interactions and communication. This diagnosis was a correction from her earlier misdiagnosis of brain damage. In 2013, Susan told The Observer that being labeled as brain damaged felt unfair since her main issue was difficulty with communication, not severe disability. However, in 2016, she experienced a very public breakdown at Heathrow Airport, which was so serious that officers were called to help her. During this incident, she left a distressing voicemail for her brother, Jerry, with whom she hadn't spoken in over 2 years due to a financial dispute. Jerry had threatened to harm himself unless Susan gave him $60,000. Their troubled relationship was widely covered in the news, which added to Susan's stress and contributed to her airport meltdown. Alongside these struggles, Susan was also dealing with loneliness. She told the Daily Mail about her desire to adopt a child since she could no longer have children herself. She wanted to bring love and joy into her home, planning to adopt a child in need and make them feel happy and comfortable. Despite her success, Susan remained in her large childhood home, where she lived alone except for her cat, Pebbles. She chose not to move, even with her wealth. Instead, she bought the house next door in 2015 with plans to combine the two properties and create her dream home. Susan once nearly bought a $400,000 villa that her friends called the Posh House. But she chose to stay in her childhood home instead. In her personal life, Susan never married. She was too busy with her career and caring for her sick mother. During her Britain's Got Talent audition, she shared that she had never been married or even kissed. At 53, she found love and started a romantic relationship. In an interview with the Daily Mail, she mentioned that in her 20s, she had a brief relationship with a boyfriend she wanted to marry, but her father didn't approve and ended it. In 2014, Susan had another chance at romance with an American doctor, whom she admired as a perfect gentleman. However, their relationship ended because it wasn't practical. Since then, Susan has been focusing on her health. After being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2014, she worked on losing weight and cutting down her sugar intake, and she succeeded. Susan shared that she started walking more and going to the gym, which was close to her home. Her hard work paid off, and she lost nearly 30 pounds, which made her happy with her slimmer figure. Even with her success, Susan hasn't forgotten her humble beginnings. She remains modest and fears returning to her past hardships. She told the Sunday Post that her difficult times, like sitting in the dark due to unpaid electricity bills, drive her to live simply. Now, her main goals are to maintain good relationships with friends and family, enjoy her success, and make sure she never has to worry about paying her bills again. What do you think about Susan focusing on her life and health? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching.